In 1945, the Allies owned the sky. They had thousands of planes. Then, out of the clouds, came a silver ghost flying 100 miles per hour faster than anything else in the world. Could this one machine have saved Berlin? April 1945, Berlin. A cold light rain makes the ruined streets a mess of rubble, turning the air thick with the scent of wet ash and cordite. Sirens wail in the distance, a low, guttural moan that echoes off shattered buildings. High above in the sky, the roaring of engines builds like thunder coming in from the west. There are hundreds of them, a mechanical swarm blotting out the gray sky. This was the sound that haunted the final days of the Third Reich. Not just any engines, but the relentless hum of American B-17 flying fortresses and their P-51 Mustang escorts, forcing Berlin into submission. And cutting through that roar, occasionally came a new scream, the whine of jet turbines, Germany's last desperate invention streaking across the skies. The Messerschmitt Me, 262, the world's first operational jet fighter, promised to rewrite the rules of aerial combat. But in those chaotic skies over the capital, could it have turned the tide? Could this sleek machine, faster than anything the Allies had, have regained control of the air war in 1945? By early 1945, the air campaign over Germany had turned into a one-sided slaughter. The Allies had achieved complete air superiority. Leading the Allied forces were the United States Army Air Forces, USAF, and the Royal Air Force, RAF. During the day, massive formations of bombers were used for attacks. Approximately more than 1,000 aircraft were utilized. Synthetic oil plants, rail yards, and industrial centers were targeted, which significantly weakened Germany's ability to fight. Berlin, considered the heart of the Nazi government, suffered from more than 300 bombing raids during the war. In the final months, these attacks became even more intense. As Soviet forces closed in from the east, the destruction in the skies over Berlin was not just physical ruin, but the end of a strategic era that held the power to turn Germany's intentions to dust. The air war over Berlin in 1945 was significant not just because it signaled the end of the conflict, but because it exposed a fundamental imbalance that destroyed the Luftwaffe's ability to defend itself. The Allies had turned the skies into a conveyor belt of destruction. Their bombers were protected by long-range fighters that could escort them deep into enemy territory. Previously, Germany's defense had been strong due to anti-aircraft flak batteries and piston engine fighters like the Focke-Wulf FW-190 and the Messerschmitt Bf-109. However, by this stage, the German defense had crumbled. A severe fuel shortage kept many planes grounded. Furthermore, experienced pilots were in short supply, and the factories producing German military equipment had already been reduced to ruins. Amidst this collapse, one extraordinary piece of technology emerged: the flight of the Messerschmitt Me, 262. It was a modern technological miracle that wrote the history of the future. In the bunkers of Berlin, Adolf Hitler and his top chiefs were obsessed with wonder weapons. These included the V, 2 rockets, advanced submarines, and the Me-262 jet. The Me-262, equipped with swept wings and Jumo 00 4 turbojet engines, could reach speeds of 540 miles per hour. This made it 100 miles per hour faster than the best Allied fighters. These jets were armed with 4 30mm cannons and our 4M rockets. They were flown by a few experienced pilots who were determined to reclaim the skies of the Reich. However, the reality was bitter. Production of the aircraft was delayed, and Hitler's insistence that the jet be used as a blitz bomber rather than a fighter caused further setbacks. The engines faced technical issues and a lack of resources, while Allied bombing had already destroyed many production lines. By 1945, approximately 1,400 Me-262s had been built, but only about 300 ever saw actual combat. Jägerschwader 7, JG-7, located near Berlin, sent up every jet they had. Often, there were fewer than 40 jets fighting against more than 1,000 bombers. These jets were easy to attack while taking off and landing. American Mustangs would wait near the airfields to catch them. The jet engines only worked for 25 hours before needing repairs. Fuel was so hard to find that pilots sometimes used oxen to pull the jets to the runway to save gas. Across the Atlantic, American factories churned out aircraft by the thousands, building over 12,000 B-17s during the war. A supply chain stretched from Detroit to England, delivering a constant flow of parts, fuel, and pilots. The P-51 Mustang played a key role. With extra fuel tanks, it could escort bombers all the way to Berlin and back. Allied crews flew with the confidence of numbers. If one plane fell, 10 more arrived to take its place. While intelligence warned of the ME-262 threat, the Allies adapted their tactics. They attacked the jets when they were most vulnerable, during takeoff or landing. This pressure meant that while German pilot numbers dwindled, fresh Allied pilots continued to arrive in waves. On March 18, 1945, the largest daylight raid on Berlin took place. 1,300 B-17s and B-24s, escorted by 700 fighters. Germany launched 37 Me-262s in the biggest jet sortie of the war. The jets attacked at 500 miles per hour, hitting bombers like the Skyway Chariot. While German pilots claimed 19 bombers downed, Allied losses totaled only 14 aircraft against 25 German fighters destroyed. Ultimately, the Me-262 claimed about 63 bombers in the war's final months, a figure that was negligible against the scale of the Allied onslaught. Adolf Galland, the Luftwaffe's fighter general, championed the jet, saying it felt like being pulled by angels, but bureaucracy and mechanical failures prevented it from changing the war's outcome. One specific mission stands out: April 7, 1945. As Soviet tanks closed in on Berlin, Me-262 jets from JG-7 flew out to stop an American air raid. They shot down several B-17 bombers, but American P-51 Mustangs shot down 5 of the jets in return. It was the same story every time. The jets won small battles, but they could not win the war. On the other side, American crews learned quickly how to fight these new machines. Bomber gunners changed how they aimed, because the jets moved so fast. Mustang pilots used boom-and-zoom tactics, diving from high above where the jets were less agile. The biggest difference was the numbers. The Allies lost thousands of planes over Europe, but they could easily replace them. Germany simply could not. In the cockpit of his P-51, Lieutenant Robert Goebel was patrolling near Berlin, looking for enemy jets. Moments later, he saw a Me-262, chased it down, and shot it down. The engine screamed. The tracers lit up the sky. Another jet fell to the earth. Historians often wonder, what if Germany had more Me-262s in 1945? Most experts say it wouldn't have mattered. Fuel was the biggest problem. By this time, the fuel plants had been bombed into ruins, and there was almost no gasoline left. Pilots were not trained well enough, and many crashed just trying to learn how to fly a jet. Their airfields were attacked constantly. Even if Germany had 500 jets in the air, they would still have to face 2,000 Allied fighters every single day. What if the Me-262 had arrived earlier? If it had been used in 1943, as some people think, it could have caused terrible damage to Allied bomber groups. It might have made losses so high that the Allies could not continue their attacks. This could have delayed day or even led to the use of atomic bombs on Germany. But by 1945, it was simply too late. The Allies had already won the war in the air. On the ground in Berlin, a German soldier found a melted Hershey bar in a bomb crater, a small prize from a crashed American plane. As he ate it, the chocolate mixed with the dust on his lips. This was a tiny bit of luxury in the middle of a total defeat. We are now halfway through our story, And that taste of chocolate reminds us of the humans caught in this massive war. At the same time, the Soviet army was closing in from the east. Some Me-262 jets were used to attack Soviet ground troops near Berlin. On April 24th, 31 jets attacked Red Army columns. While they caused some damage, it was not enough to stop the Soviet push. The Allies had so many planes that they could support their ground troops without any trouble. This is where Allied supply power really showed its strength. Convoys brought endless amounts of ammunition, while the Germans had to hunt for whatever they could find. An American tail gunner eating a Hershey bar during a battle might see a jet flash by, but it was gone before he could even aim his gun. The Hershey bar was more than just food. It was a symbol of home and wealth. For German soldiers, finding one was a reminder of how rich their enemy was, the same wealth that built the thousands of planes flying overhead. In the final weeks of the war, the Me-262 missions almost stopped. By May, the surviving jets were captured by the Americans during Operation Lusty and sent to the U.S. to be studied. One famous jet, White 35, was flown away, its engine noise silenced forever. To wrap up the main point, no, the Me-262 could not change the air war over Berlin in 1945. It was a brilliant machine, but it was outnumbered by the massive strength of the Allies. It showed the start of the jet age, but for World War II, it was just the final chapter, not a turning point. German pilots fought hard. Famous ace Johannes Steinhoff shot down 6 bombers in one mission, but barely survived a crash. Their stories are a mix of excitement and the feeling that they were fighting for a lost cause. By the time the Soviets entered Berlin on April 30th and Hitler died, the air raid stopped because the fighting was now happening in the streets. In the end, as the ruins of Berlin grew quiet, the cost of the air war was clear. Over 60,000 German civilians and thousands of airmen were dead. The Me-262, as fast as it was, could not outrun history. Technology alone does not win wars. People, resources, and timing do.